Hey there guys, it's Jesse, and today we take on Beth'tilac, one of the first bosses in the Firelands in World of Warcraft Cataclysm. Much like the other starting raid bosses in Cata, this is one of those light shows with a ton of stuff going on that can easily cause a raid to panic, but when you see past all of that, it's really incredibly simple. How easy is it? Well, let's just say I'm gonna have to adjust this video guide a bit from my other guides because it literally took us 3 attempts to down this boss in a 25-man. The first try was to see if all the old strats the PTR guilds came up with worked, but spoiler alert, they don't. And the second attempt was simply to come up with one of our own. After that, we killed her, which means I barely have enough footage for the guide, let alone a here's a sped up kill ending like I usually do. So we're just gonna stick to a breakdown and then the strategy guide. When you first engage the boss, rather than fight you, she'll climb to the top of her web and hide there. While up top, she has several abilities such as Ember Flare, which burns any player near her for 23,000 damage, Meteor Burn, which shoots a meteor down from the sky, dealing 40k damage to anyone within 7 yards of the impact, and burning a hole in the web that, if you fall through, will probably kill you. And then to make matters a whole deal worse, she has something called Smoldering Devastation, which is an ability that instantly kills anyone who's on top of the web with her. So you're probably saying to yourself right now, why would anyone want to go up to the top of the web then? Well, if no one is engaging the boss, she'll use a fiery venom ooze type ability to cover the entire raid and slowly kill them, which means someone has to be up on top fighting her all the time, except, for when she explodes. But we'll have to get into that part in a minute. Now, while all of that's going on up top, the fight down below consists of dealing with her minions, Cinderweb drones, spinners, and spiderlings. Now, while all 3 of them have abilities that you could easily look up in the dungeon journal if you really wanted to, they aren't really a factor in this fight, I'll be honest with you. There's only 3 things you need to concern yourself with. 1, the spinners who hang down from the webs. Once dead, you can use those webs to climb up to the top, that's very important. 2, the drones have something called Boiling Splatter that shoots out in a cone of fire in front of them, dealing 75k damage to anyone in the area. So, of course, you only want the tank out there, so you're gonna have to face him away. And finally, 3, the spiderlings are nothing more than food for the drones. They will run towards the drones, and when the drones eat them, they will not only heal up, but they'll also get a buff to their attack speed and damage. Oh, and there's one more major aspect to this fight as well. Beth'tilac has something called a fire energy bar that decreases over time. Once you hit 0, that's when she'll use her Smoldering Devastation. Once she devastates 3 times, she'll drop down for phase 2. However, the drones you fight also have a fire energy bar, and if theirs depletes, they go up top and suck some of the fire energy from the boss. This will hasten the casting of Devastation, make her get off 3 even faster, and make phase 1 end sooner. So right about now you're probably thinking, how the hell do you manage a fight like this? What's the strategy? Well, let's get down to business. When the fight begins, the boss will climb to the top like I said. There she'll unload her fire acid upon the raid. At this point, everyone needs to move to the center of the room and drop all their AoE heals and just keep people alive until a few spinners are dead. Once they've revealed their webs, you can ride them to the top. At this point, you need to decide how to divvy up your raid. Who goes to the top, who stays at the bottom. Our strat was incredibly simple. All we did was send a tank and a skilled single target healer up to the top. Everyone else, all 23 members, stayed at the bottom. The goal of the top team was simply to engage the boss, stay alive, dodge the meteors, and get below before the devastation goes off. Then get back up top as soon as possible. And make a note to remember, only the middle hole is safe to drop down. I don't know if there are any others, but I do know that the holes created by the meteors will cause you to suffer fall damage, which is not good. As with the beginning of the fight, when the tank and healer drop down, the entire raid groups up back in the middle, so healing is easier until they can engage the boss up top again. Meanwhile, the rest of the raid on the bottom has 2 main objectives. 1, the ranged and AoEs are stationed in 4 distinct areas around the room. You can see them here. These are exactly where the spiderlings come from in 25-man. In 10-man, it's kind of random, so you'll really have to keep moving, but in 25-man, they come from all 4 at the same time. The goal here is to kill them right away so they don't even make it to the drone. Meanwhile, any drone is being kited by the tank, who keeps them faced away from the raid and, more importantly, away from any of those spiderlings. Once the spiderlings are all dead, the kill order should be drones, then spinners. Now, the single biggest strategy that led to our victory was that we decided to give up a quick fight and go for a solid fight and completely ignored the drone's draining mechanic on the boss and simply killed them as quickly as we could, letting the 3 devastations go off on their own time, which took roughly 4 minutes. Our fear here was that if we kept letting the drones go up top, when we transitioned to Phase 2, there would be a bunch of drones and we'd be screwed. Another trick we discovered was that the spinners do infinitely more damage when dangling from their webs than when they do on the ground. And a simple taunt will knock them off their webs and make them fall down. So besides a main tank below and a tank above, we got a third tank or taunter to make his main focus taunting the spinners off the webs whenever they came down. Once on the ground, they became completely unnoticeable damage-wise. Once we essentially negated all the adds below, the process became as simple as staying alive and then after that, waiting for 3 devastates to go off. Once the boss dropped down, there were no more adds spawning, and we could finish up any stragglers, and the fight essentially became a tank and spank. She does still bring the Ember Flare ability with her, and a new ability called Widow's Kiss that lowers healing on her current target, so that usually is the tank, so you need to have an off tank ready to go and grab the boss once she starts popping that on the MT. But the only major issue of concern is that she has a Frenzy that increases her damage by 5% that stacks over the course of Phase 2. So you really have to burn her down fast. And what you're seeing right now is our one and only attempt on Phase 2, and we down the boss on it. This is not a hard fight, and should definitely be one of the first any 25-man guild tries. If my raid can beat it in 3 tries without even going in with a working strat, now that you have this, you should be able to do even better. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Thumbs up, subscribe, all that junk. And as always, to be continued.